So the battle for not only the number one player in the class of 2024, but the number one quarterback in the nation, Dylan Raiola, may have gotten a little bit more interesting after this weekend when he took a visit to Lincoln Riley and the USC Trojans. And after exiting, many professionals around the industry have inserted crystal ball predictions in favor of the Trojans to land the number one quarterback in the nation, something we've got to unpack today. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Do you believe Lincoln Riley and USC land the nation's number one prospect, Dylan Raiola? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions are massive, and we're on a push to 20,000 subscribers. I'd love to have you a part of this unbelievable community. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And first and foremost, let's start with Dylan Raiola, the number one prospect in the nation, the number one quarterback in the nation. And when you turn on the film, it's easy to figure out why. There's nothing he doesn't do extremely well, and it makes complete sense whenever we look at this and the institutions that are really trying to get involved in this battle. He was a one-time Ohio State commit, and we've talked about this before. Ohio State has stacked quarterback talent like they've stacked wide receiver talent, but whenever he opened his process back up, teams like Nebraska, teams like Georgia, and I've even talked about Arizona State are teams that I'm really interested in watching and seeing how they approach this battle. And now in comes USC. And after a weekend visit to the Trojans, it seems like the USC connection is going very, very well. And first and foremost, I'm never surprised when I see a top-tier quarterback or really a top-tier offensive player look at Lincoln Riley and say, yeah, I'm going to go with that guy. Because his offenses have put up massive numbers. His quarterbacks have put up big numbers, and they've found their way to the NFL consistently. And if you're Dylan Raiola, that's the end goal, the NFL. And whenever you look at this list of teams that he's going after or that's courting him, you have Nebraska and Matt Rhule. And Matt Rhule, in fairness, has coached just about everywhere. He's coached defense at the college level. He's coached offense at the college level. He's coached linebackers, defensive line, running backs, offensive line, you name it. He is a well-rounded coach, but Lincoln's specialized. Lincoln Riley is specialized in one thing. And it's going to be really interesting to see how all of this comes together. Because whenever you see Dylan Raiola go to USC, enjoy his time, and exit the weekend with industry-leading professionals inserting crystal balls in the Trojans' favor, it begs the question, could they have just sewn up this race? Now, I don't believe they have sewn up the race, first and foremost. I think there's still a lot of time and opportunity to go, but I do think it's telling that you have guys like Steve Wiltfong, who we talk about all the time. He has an adjective whenever he drops a crystal ball. It's called getting fonged. Dylan Raiola has been fonged to USC, and that typically does mean something because Wiltfong is right a whole heck of a lot more than he's wrong. But we also need to talk about the other players in this recruiting battle, because though I have no doubt that USC is going to be attacking the recruitment of Dylan Raiola hard, so too will Nebraska. So too will Georgia, and so too will Arizona State. And I'd like to start with the last one first, Arizona State, because this is a team that's not getting much press when it comes to Dylan Raiola. And I'd like to start with the last one first in Arizona State, because Arizona State has known nothing but chaos the previous few years, and Kenny Dillingham goes there from Oregon, and he's already made some stellar hires. We've talked about this on the channel. I love the addition of Rashad Samples and the addition of Brian Carrington. Those two are heavyweight recruiters, and I think that's going to pay off big time for the Sun Devils. But it is going to be an uphill battle trying to get Dylan Raiola to stay home. But that is something that could be a compelling factor for Arizona State and Kenny Dillingham. The fact that Dylan Raiola is from the state of Arizona. He wouldn't have to go far to play for the Sun Devils. And I must admit, I really hope that Dillingham is able to turn Arizona State around, because I just want college football teams to be good, and I feel bad for any program that had to go through the chaos Arizona State had to go to. And some of those prospects, some of those players on the team did absolutely nothing wrong, but they too had to go through the chaos. And because of that, I just really hope that they're able to turn it around. But it's going to be tough if you're Arizona State recruiting against the likes of USC, especially when we know the season USC just came off of. We know what Lincoln Riley does as a head coach, and you can say, oh yeah, he gets to the playoffs and then loses, but he gets to the playoffs. That's tough to do. We talk about that time and time again on the channel. It is so tough making it to the dance. he's one of the few guys that's made it to the dance on more than one occasion. That says something. And we also just saw what he did in one season with USC, where I didn't think USC would be in the position they would be. Now, I didn't think they would be far off, but I made a whole video about it with Jonathan Lewis, and we said we thought they'd be close to being in playoff contention, but they were one win away from making the college football playoffs. Had they beat Utah, they probably would have gone on. I didn't know they would be right there. And if you're Dylan Raiola, seeing how quickly he was able to turn around USC, or at least get them into a winning conversation, that has to be compelling. But if you want to talk about compelling, the Georgia Bulldogs and what they're doing on a year-in, year-out basis right now, I mean, it's just about as compelling as it gets. I talk about it on the channel all the time. Do you move the needle? When your coach sits down with these prospects, does the pitch move them? And in the case of Georgia, it has to. Look at the winning they're doing. Not only the winning on the field, but how much development is taking place in Athens. It's telling. And because of that, I think that we have to watch this battle for Georgia and Dylan Raiola. But speaking of a battle we have to watch for Dylan Raiola, what about Nebraska? Because Matt Rhule is an individual who comes back to the college game. The Nebraska Cornhuskers fan base are over the moon at his presence, and deservedly so. We know what he did with Baylor, but also there's familial ties with Dylan Raiola and Nebraska, as his uncle is a coach there. That could be massive. And we've seen time and time again that Raiola and Nebraska are trending in a positive direction. It's just going to be interesting to see how this finishes out. But at the end of the day, I'm never surprised when I see these top-tier offensive players consider Lincoln Riley and USC. My only question is this. Lincoln Riley historically has gone every other class in taking a quarterback. And last cycle, he got Malachi Nelson, a 5-star quarterback and one of the top prospects in all of high school football. Is he going to be able to double down and get another 5-star quarterback the next class? Not only a 5-star quarterback, but the number 1 player in the nation? That's tough to say. That's tough to say. Lincoln Riley, as I said, recruits the quarterback position and develops them as well as anybody in college football. There is no question about that. But getting 2 5-star quarterbacks in back-to-back classes, that's a real tough thing to do. And something, if he's able to pull it off, well, it's going to be really telling. I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know where you think Dylan Raiola ends up. That's it. See you.